Hello, everybody. I'm back. Sorry, camera. Anyways, so without a whole lot to talk about because we are still in limited fun stuff. Because of COVID, my whole life can be defined by two words right now. Because COVID. Because I'm not doing a whole lot, I put it out there on social media. Hey, what are some things that I could talk about on my infertility vlog that people want to know? And I got some really good questions. I'm trying to keep these a little bit short-ish because it's a vlog, not a movie. Excuse me. So, I'm going to kind of do them, and I'm going to work the questions out into sections. Today we're going to talk about the medical side of infertility, I guess you could say. What causes infertility? How do you diagnose infertility? How do you treat infertility? So, we'll start with what causes infertility. And the answer is anything and everything? Not really. Maybe, really. Okay, so real quick from health and science class, we know that in order for pregnancy to occur, a woman has to ovulate, and that egg has to be present when there is the male sperm in her reproductive system. The sperm has to fertilize the egg. The egg has to go through all of its channels of female reproductiveness and implant, and then you have a pregnancy. I know. That was the low rent version of that, but bear with me here. I'm gonna go with, if you're watching this, you know what's going on, and if you're not watching this, you're too young to be watching this channel. Or if you're watching this and you don't know what's going on, you're too young to be watching this channel. So, there's fertility issues, and fertility issues can be present in both men and women. In a man, it's a lower abnormal sperm count. And there's a whole lot of different factors that can cause sperm count issues. You know, genetics or damage to a man's DNA can cause low sperm counts. Some bacterial and viral infections can cause it. Trauma to the reproductive organs, for lack of a better word, can cause it. Exposures to certain chemicals can cause it. Cancer and a lot of the cancer drugs can cause it. Certain pesticides can cause it. They have found out alcohol and drug use can cause sperm count issues. Overexposure to heat sources, so being in like a sauna or a hot tub too much. Now, some of these obviously are possibly reversible, and surgical procedures that have had to remove or mess with the male reproductive organs, those can all cause problems with sperm counts. And there are a few other factors, and like genetics is kind of an umbrella thing. Trauma, surgery, think umbrella things. We're going for the quick. So, What causes infertility in women, which is highly more prevalent than infertility issues in men? I don't know the statistics. I am reading off of the Cleveland Clinic webpage on some things because I don't know everything. But for women, infertility can be caused by hormonal issues, imbalances with your thyroid. Polycystic ovary syndrome is a hormonal issue. Some women have high testosterone levels. Your thyroid gland can be messed up. Your hormonal glands don't work right. So hormonal issues, kind of an umbrella of things. They have it listed as structural issues. That would be your reproductive organs are not how they're supposed to be in your body. Now, sometimes your ovaries aren't developed right. Sometimes the woman's uterus isn't developed right. Sometimes the fallopian tubes that move the egg from the ovaries into the uterus don't work right. Those are all issues. Sometimes you can have blockages in various parts of those organs. Those are structural issues. And age is a factor, obviously, especially for women, but for men too, to some degree, because men do hit a certain age where it doesn't work right, no matter how young she is. But age is a factor. Unfortunately, for the modern woman, the reality is our ancestors had it right in getting married quite young, because that's when you're optimally going to get pregnant. That is, getting married for reproductive purposes. Getting married for reproductive purposes quite young was the optimal idea. Now, some women, due to various factors, have accelerated aging in their reproductive organs. Part of my polycystic ovary syndrome is an accelerated aging in my reproductive organs. I have a diminished egg capacity, whether I was just born with less than the normal woman or not. We're not entirely sure, but it's a factor. Now, obviously, as much as we all hate to be on this bandwagon, weight and diet are issues. But more and more, but there's also a lot of weight being a symptom of another issue that we're seeing, particularly with polycystic ovary syndrome. My weight is a symptom of my polycystic ovary syndrome. I don't have the best diet, for sure, but I don't have a super craptastic diet either. I try to stay physically active and not sedentary, but, my weight is still a really big struggle. I know when I was in my early 20s, at one point, due to stress with school and work and wanting to spend time with my friends and doing all of this stuff, I wasn't eating regularly. That's when I noticed weight loss. Obviously, not eating is a healthy weight. Obviously, not eating is not healthy. But, unfortunately, if you really don't have a diagnosed underlying issue, eating a really crappy diet, it doesn't help. And it goes both for men and women. Get your nose back. I have food wrappers. And she wants the food. That's Bandy. She's helping. Are you going to continue to help? Are you going to help Mama? There's my baby. So diet does have an effect on reproductive. So after that pause, because my dog was helping, let's continue on. I know I was talking about diet. Is an issue, fertility issue. So overexerting your athletic training can also be an issue. So, you know, it really does go, there's too much and there's too little. There can be too much and there can be too little. When it goes to optimal health, it affects a woman's fertility. Stress, that's the number one thing every infertile woman hears when they're trying to get pregnant. Oh, just don't stress. We'll talk about that later. But stress, again, exposure to chemicals and toxins, medications, a lot of medications that the fertility issue effect is temporary. Once you get off those medications, it works. Certain diseases and genetics are all part of that. So we identify fertility issues. The easiest thing to disassociate with fertility, one of the first things they'll do when a couple starts down this road, and generally you go to your general doctor, you say, we're trying to get pregnant, we've been trying for this long, it's not working. You'll go to a specialist. A lot of times it's an endocrinologist. They're the first step. Then you go to a fertility doctor. An endocrinologist can bill out the insurance differently than a fertility specialist so that the insurance covers it. But they will test the man's semen to rule out any issues with lower abnormal semen counts, and that's really easy to do. The hard part is figuring out what's wrong with a woman. That'll include blood work, because they'll have to see if chemicals, hormonals, they'll have to do all that. A physical exam, which usually includes an ultrasound, which, we know what the ultrasound is, that thingy on the belly, but there's also this lovely internal wand ultrasound, which is uncomfortable as buck. So there's a physical exam on a woman and a blood work exam on a woman. That's where you're going to determine what the problem is. That will determine what your treatment options are. If it's a hormonal imbalance, depending on what the issue is what's going to be treating it. I know that they can do things for low and abnormal semen counts. There's medications you can take. There's medications you can take for hormonal imbalances. There's medications you can take to cause your ovaries to produce more than one egg at a time. There's oral. They start with an oral medication called Clomid, and it kind of bumps up from there. You have an injected medication. All of those are expensive and take money. And sometimes you end up at the point where you have to scientifically you have to assist in the fertilization of the female egg. That is, they will go in, they will retrieve a woman's egg, They'll retrieve semen from the man. They'll put them together in a lab, and then they'll, determine how many eggs are fertilized. Are these eggs viable to be implanted? Then they get implanted, and you might get pregnant. And if you're lucky, you get pregnant, and that pregnancy carries full term, and you have an IVF baby. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot expensive. Let me just tell you. So there's a lot of causes. Treatment is very dependent on the cause. And there's no guarantee the treatment's going to work. If the causation is age, chances are the treatment isn't going to work. If you're a woman who has some serious issues with how her reproductive organs are structured, treatment may not work. And that's kind of one of the challenging things about infertility. And, we know more now than what we did even 20 years ago about infertility. And I know that because 20 years ago when I was a teenager and puberty wasn't operating the way it was supposed to, it was kind of challenging to find a doctor who said, there's more to it than just your weight. We see that your weight is a symptom. And even now, I tell people I feel like I could walk into the ER with a broken arm, and the doctor would look at me and tell me, oh, you just need to lose weight and that'll fix your problem. Yes, weight is a problem, but doctors need to treat weight issues as a symptom of something else too, because there are cases where it is. There's a lot of cases where it is, and we don't want to acknowledge that because we don't want to treat that. We just want to tell people to lose weight. Can we tell I don't like doctors? Can we? So now that we've talked about sort of the medical side of infertility, next time I sit down and talk to my camera, we'll talk a little bit about some of those other questions that have come up that are the social and emotional side of infertility. Because those are fun. Not. Alright, gang. I hope gave you guys some educational information. I hope I gave you some information to help you understand what infertility is if you don't know. And maybe something you can take back and help somebody later. Or you can help somebody with now. Until I see you next time. Bye.